Hey, Spuddies, PotatoMcWhiskey here, and welcome to Civilization 6 as the Cree. Kind of messed up my intro there, but you know what? We're going to roll with it. A couple of things that we need to take note of. Pretty happy with how the series is going in terms of the gameplay. I do need to figure out what I want to do with Edinburgh. I think I'll just let it make a commercial hub for now and then not worry about it. We have essentially fully built this city. I mean, if we look at it, it's nearly working every tile that it can. We might want to swap a few tiles around, but I think we're more or less happy with the way the city is going. I'm trying to think if there's anything I want to build. I don't think aerodromes give you any tourism, so how do I maximize my tourism from this city? Well, I definitely think maybe spamming industrial zone logistics, which will make my electricity a little bit easier to manage, actually. I kind of want the great engineer points from this really, really badly so I can cycle through great engineers a little bit faster. So that kind of works for me. But I think I'm going to tell this city that actually production isn't important and that I'd rather you focus on everything else. So the city will work on everything except for production. And the reason for that is, quite simply, it's not efficient to turn a production into projects. So I'm better off looking to pick up food and gold and all those other yields because those are just better than going into projects. I don't know how to explain it, but doing these projects just isn't very production efficient. So you're better off trying to, because it takes 15 production to get one. Every 100 production you put in, you get a 15 great people points, right? So it's like a super inefficient conversion rate. So you want to focus on getting things like culture and science and all that sort of jazz, right? I will take off the gold focus as well so that the city prioritizes specialists here, in particular culture and faith specialists. Those are the two that I'm most interested in. And that does take about 20 production off the city, which is totally fine as far as I'm concerned. Definitely, again, I think a seaport is a good meme here. I can just keep skyrocketing that production that we have. Let's go ahead and level up Reina a little bit. It's probably a reasonable thing to do. And I believe Liang actually got de-assigned from this city. Let's go ahead and get her reassigned. It'll take a little bit of time. But all my seaports are finishing, and now I can start to get my Ferris wheels and things like that online. And that will start to make a big difference long term. The appeal here isn't high enough for a seaside resort, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of reworking of the land. I need to buy a little bit of coal here, so let's see if we can grab any coal from the AI. 800 gold for 51 coal, I'll take that deal. I do want my broadcast centers. I'll get my Ferris wheels first, though, because that is 2 tourism per turn, as well as extra amenities. And then I'll pick up the broadcast centers for that 12, although baseline 8 culture per turn. That should help skyrocket us through things. I'm also going to use my gold here to buy the shipyard. And then we'll hard build the holy site. The city's already popping off. Very happy with how this game has gone. We're just doing great. Let's dig up some seaside artifacts here. Also, I've got the colorized historic moments mod plugged in, which is making these all look quite pretty in their own way. In terms of artifact, man, it's always barbarians and poundmaker. I can never get a non-barbarian or non-poundmaker artifact. It's kind of becoming a big problem for theming here. I can't make it work. So we managed to take this from being +2 appeal to +4 by killing the mine, which was +1, and then adding a forest, which is another +1. So now I should be able to place a coastal village, a coastal, oh god, what are they called? A seaside resort, that's what they're called. Speaking of tourism, actually, something I completely forgot to do was to talk to the other players and buy literally all of the great works of writing that I can get my hand on. This is especially important to buy them from Wilhelmina, because this will actually lower her culture per turn, which in turn will lower the amount of defensive tourists that she's getting, but it'll also increase my tourism per turn, which will increase the amount of offensive tourists that I'm stealing. So that works in a double whammy for me. Hopefully this is a Cyrus artifact. Perfect. I just needed literally any artifact, any culture other than mine. I do have Matthew Perry here, who will allow me to get suzerainty of any city-state that I want. Now the question is, which city-state would I like to be suzerain of? Hattusa or Bologna would be ideal here. So let's go ahead and do Bologna. I'll send him all the way over here. It'll take him a while. Actually, I could probably teleport him. Yeah, I think I'll teleport him. That should shave a few turns off of his journey. Robert the Bruce, perfect. We're finally getting artifacts from people other than myself and the barbarians. Took a long time for it to appear. I also need to keep abreast of, I think this is the turn that I give cash to Persia in order to improve his relationship with us so we can get him to be a little bit more neutral. We have access to economic union, so that's a straight up upgrade. As well as gunboat diplomacy. That could be quite good. Otherwise, only really the spy changes anything there. But I will plug in economic union. This is an important card to have plugged in. And I guess military research is a reasonable card to have plugged in here. For now, I don't need anything else. I could probably get rid of veterancy in the near future. I don't need it forever. Eventually, that card just has like a diminishing return. Also, we managed to get our hands on the all-famous James Joyce. But the question is, do we have any room for great works of writing? We actually don't have any room whatsoever for great works of writing. So let's go ahead and teleport him over to O'Cannon's, because there is a theatre square finishing here soon. The extra science from Renaissance walls and seaports is very, very helpful. Now, let's have a little bit of a think about suzerainty. I don't think I could spend 2 envoys to get suzerain of Zanzibar again, which will boost me from 18 content cities to 18 content cities. So that didn't actually really make a difference, unfortunately. But I do want to be suzerain of Singapore because it's a lot of production to be suzerain of Singapore. It's 15% across my entire empire. We got our very first seaside resort here on a 4 appeal tile. Though that will eventually be better because we are going to build the Eiffel Tower as well as the Cristo Redentor. And the important thing about the Eiffel Tower and the Cristo Redentor is how these things stack together like in an incredibly powerful way. Baseline, one of these seaside resorts, okay, it will net you like 4 tourism, right? If I look at this right now, it's getting me 5 tourism, but that's because I have computers, right, which gives you the 25% tourism boost across your empire. What this actually will represent is once I have the Eiffel Tower, this will be 6 baseline tourism plus another 100% tourism from seaside resorts. That'll be 12 base tourism, then another 50% on top of that. So it'll be somewhere between 15 and 18 tourism per turn, which then gets applied to every single civ in the game individually. So it's actually, you know, a really, really powerful tile on par. Like this is once you have the Eiffel Tower plus the Cristo Redentor, this tile is like a national park in of itself, like a basic national park. That's why the Cristo Redentor Eiffel Tower combination is a huge investment, but it's also a really like impactful investment. Like it pays itself off so well. Let's teleport Matthew Perry over here to Kawakatus so I can go ahead and get control of Bologna. We have printing now. This is an important piece of technology. It improves the tourism yields from great works of writing. It basically doubles it. So they go from giving you 2 tourism to 4 tourism. The level of diplomatic visibility, while nice, isn't the most important thing. But you can now see that our tourism is starting to hit a healthy 451 per turn, which is quite good. And we are on the cusp of getting Cold War, which should be a game changer. And we're also finishing things like Ferris wheels and stuff like that, which will lead to just the slow trickle upkeep and uptick rather in our tourism. Now, let me have a little bit of a think about how many art museums I have. I have 2 open art museums. I'm wondering if I could maybe come in here and purchase. Well, I can get more great works of writing for sure, but I'm wondering if I could maybe buy some great works of art. There's a couple of portraits here, 26 gold. What about landscapes? Yeah, I can grab some landscapes, yoink those. What about religious art? Yes, I can grab some religious art. This is good. And I want to be buying all of these things in order to cripple my enemy's culture. That's the goal here, is I want to give them my gold, which I have in abundance, in exchange for their culture. So I'm essentially paying top money in order to hurt them. So let's kind of have a look here, right? We've got a bunch of landscapes, so we can start pairing off these landscapes like so and begin a little bit of a theming process. We have 1 themed museum, so we're kind of moving in the right direction. I think this does tell me that I need another art museum to fit more great works of art. I don't need to get all, like every single district or every single theatre square doesn't need to have an archaeological museum. You can mix it up just a little bit. Cultural alliance with Japan seems reasonable. I actually totally forgot to send a gift to Persia, but I'll send it to him now. And that should hopefully bump up his relationship and maybe let me get a resident embassy. You know, we'll maybe see how he feels. about like mutual open borders too. One thing I can definitely do though is sell off some of my luxuries to the AI for a little bit of a bonus here. We got a new great artist. That's actually really well timed. That might open up the ability for me to maybe theme another museum. If that great artist does in fact give me works of great work or great art that are useful to my cause. I've heard that Ulysses is like one of the most unreadable books in mankind. That if you want to torture someone, all you have to do is ask them to read it. Just tell them to try to read it in like one sitting, front to back, without restarting. So I'm going to go ahead and take suzerainty of Bologna. Boom. It's now mine, which is perfect. Which should give me a huge boost to my great person generation. I made 15 great musician points this turn. And now if we go check out, now it's 50. Oh, sweet unholy Christ. Excuse me? What? 50? Excuse me? Is it really that good? That can't be right. I went from 17 to 50. That can't be right. There's no way that that's correct. Yeah, I'm a little bit baffled, but okay. Let's get another art museum. There is room for more art. There's always a little bit more room for art if you can make it happen. Another Scottish artifact. So now I should be in a much better position to actually theme my artifacts. Okay, so we've got the theming bonus thing activated. This needs ancient, classical. So let's see if we can't make this work. So I forget what I'm trying to match here. Hold on. I think it's same color, different numbers. Yes. Same color, different numbers. There's a themed museum. Let's make that our cap. Let's make this one start from the top left, work our way down. Same color, different numbers. This is almost themed. Same color, different numbers. This is almost themed. And then otherwise, we're on the cusp of maybe theming a little bit more. We just need more artifacts. That's what we really need. More and more artifacts. The Zulu want to be friends. I'll take that deal. I think we had a military alliance with the Zulu. I think there's actually an achievement to have one of every alliance type as the Cree. They're very much a diplomatic civ. Now, we did manage to pick up Crystal Redentor, which will make our seaside resorts much more effective. And most importantly here, we just got Cold War, which will allow us to spam rock bands. And we need to hit the rock band ground running because Wilhelmina is one civic away from music censorship. So we're going to start the closest cities. Here's a rock band city, so I'm going to start spamming those rock bands. We've got a rock band city over here. Boom. And that's going to be like the majority of our actions this era. Now, we want to spend all of our faith in theocracy before we change our government. So we're going to spend a bit of time picking up things like professional sports. It is theoretically possible for me to literally make infinite rock bands right now and just send them in every direction to every single person on the map. Yeah, let's do a mass wave of rock bands. Let's do it. It's rock around the clock time. All the rock bands ever. Spend all that faith. We've been saving it up. We may as well cash in that check that we've had sitting in our bank for a very, very long time. We're down to 1,800 faith. We could get one more rock band, and there it is. Okay, so I just bought, if I check my list here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Looks like 17 to 20 rock bands in a single turn. Talk about big purchases. And now we can go ahead and switch to democracy. That'll improve our trade routes and give us access to yet more cards that we could use. So with the Cristo Redentor finished, probably the best thing to do in my capital is to continue to develop things like broadcast centers and seaports. Just follow the regular build path. So far it hasn't failed us, so I don't know why I would change. It has served me well. Oh, and just for the record, I hover over this, and this is now generating plus 10 tourism per turn. So that doubling effect actually applies after those modifiers. Very, very powerful. It should be 9 if the modifier is applied like sequentially, but because they apply multiplicatively with each other, or if the modifiers were additive, it would be 9, but because they're multiplicative, it's 10. So It's like a nice little differentiation there, is that you actually get a lot more value from Crystal Redentor than you would otherwise think. But now that I have to go through the process of upgrading and moving all of these rock bands, I'll kind of give you the general thought process that I have in how I'm going to approach these rock bands. Is everything that's close to the Netherlands is going to be sent to the Netherlands, so we can get as many performances in on them before they kick us out. And then we're going to be just looking for high value trades. What we want to be doing is glam rock is one of the best promotions because theater squares are relatively ubiquitous, and the higher the level your rock band is, the much their roles become so much better. I think it's like, if you have a level 1 rock band, you have like a 1% chance to get a tier 5 performance. But if you have a level 3 rock band, it's like a 10% chance. I can't remember the exact numbers, but optimizing for promotions that give you +2 experience levels can potentially roll you extremely high. So what I'm going to be doing here is looking for glam rock in particular, for mostly for rock bands that will be going to the Netherlands. In the absence of that, album cover art is another good option. Basically anything that gives you rock band levels is usually what I kind of prioritize. You know what? I can actually just buy all of the buildings in this city in order to accelerate it, and then work on other things. But yeah, I got an email from Brandy Cunningham, not Cummingham, Brandy Cunningham, who is a Métis. Métis, I don't know how to pronounce it, but she's it's essentially, it's kind of akin to Creole in its connotation, in the sense that it's someone who is of mixed descent, someone who is part European and part indigenous. Brandy said her ancestry is a mixture of Cree, Mohawk, and Ojibwe. I'm not sure how to pronounce that last one. In fact, sometimes I'm not sure how to pronounce most of them. But the sort of general thrust was that she has like some European descent, like English or English, French, German, and Finnish. Like fairly standard stuff you might expect from anyone from North America. But Brandy also told me that, you know, her story is a little bit less fun than maybe some of the other stories we've taught. Like, I mean, like, most of them weren't very fun, to be honest with you. But her story is one of, like, at least the history of her family. The generations that came before Brandy were honestly treated very poorly. And I feel like that's even kind of understating how bad the treatment was. Her family, her grandparents especially, and the generations of her people that came before her, were subjected to a thing called residential schools. And the general gist of what those were is that there was a policy in place to take young Indigenous children from their families to be raised in religious institutions run by the Catholic Church. Now, you know, being Irish, I'm somewhat familiar with this kind of concept, with the unwed mother homes, I think they were called here. I can't remember exactly what they were called. They were mother and child homes, I think they were called. But, you know, you can do a little bit of Googling on that, and you can probably see that it'll have echoes of the same story that Brandy tells. You know, these places were, you know, they were run by the Catholic Church, and they were just rife with physical, emotional, and spiritual abuse. Children who died in these kind of institutions were, you know, their families were rarely told about it, and they were buried in unmarked graves. They suffered in very poor conditions, like suffering from tuberculosis. I always have trouble saying that disease's name. Things like this, like preventable deaths, really is the theme here. Is that like this didn't have to happen? It didn't have to happen, and it did. And I think that's the important takeaway there. Is it didn't have to happen. You know, families were rarely informed of their children's death, and so you might have a child taken from you and never see that child again. And this was a forcible taking. You know, I don't think this was really optional at all. So, you know, it's a harrowing and difficult thing to hear and talk about. But the people who did make it through the system, who did, you know, make it back, they were left with kind of only really shreds of the identity that was, you know, that they had before they were in these schools, which I guess was technically mission accomplished from the perspective of what those schools wanted to do. They wanted to create social harmony in the sense, but that, like, the sort of natural way of doing that in their eyes was to erase a cultural identity, which I guess, it worked, but like no one's clapping, you know what I mean? That's pretty rough. But yeah, so as a result of this, the consequences of this is that Brandy didn't really get much in the way of language or cultural practices from her grandparents, because they had been through these systems. They had had their native ancestry and culture kind of taken from them, in a sense, and almost orphaned from a culture. I think maybe some people overstate how important a culture is, but I think people also understate how important the culture is. Like, it's nice to know, like it's nice to know that I am Irish, that there's like a cultural tradition and practice that comes from that. And I think it would be similar if I were a person from an indigenous culture. It would be nice to know where I came from, even if that culture isn't like the most incredibly relevant thing ever. It would definitely leave sort of a mark on my psyche and my identity to know that there was like a sort of large campaign to erase my own history. But yeah, there was all sorts of pressures on Indigenous people. So, for example, if you wanted to get a college education, you had to leave the reserve, and you had to get permission from an Indian agent, and that person could just like refuse you permission, and then you lose your status as an Indigenous person. So, effectively, even more ways to strip people of their culture, even more ways to strip people of their identity. And that's the important thing here, is that identity matters, identity and identification, who you are and where you come from, that this does actually matter to people. And I think, you can personally decide that it doesn't matter to you, and I think that's fine, but I don't think you should be making that decision for everyone. If somebody thinks that something is important to them and it's a part of their identity, then, that's for them to decide. That's their decision. I don't think you should have a say in that. If it's important to them, it's important to them, and that's like kind of like the end of the matter there. But Brandy did mention a little bit about the creation myth to do with the star people, as well as the actual the pop culture sort of. It's quite popular in pop culture, is the Wendigo myth. Even if the Wendigo myth has been warped quite a bit from its original intent and meaning, at least from what Brandy tells me. Brandy says that, like, the original. She kind of talked about the Wendigo story a little bit. Like, the Wendigo originally it's a story about an evil spirit that manifests in order to teach people the value of life. Or sorry, to teach people the value of all life, and to remind people to be thankful of the animals that provide sustenance. Certain behaviors could be considered sort of Wendigo behaviors, trophy hunting or killing animals for fun would be Wendigo behavior. People can be turned into a Wendigo if they're not willing to repent for their mistreatment of wildlife. The curse essentially makes you become a monster, a sort of a monster, but it may be a little bit more metaphorical in modern times. The legend has it that the cannibal aspect, I think, the cannibal aspect of the legend, I think, comes from a man who became a Wendigo because the spirits warned animals not to go near him. They essentially, don't go near this guy. He's a ruthless killer. He's going to eat you, etc. And in his, deep hunger and insanity, as a result of that hunger, he ate his own family. And that's kind of like the story of the Wendigo, or at least, this is Brandy's telling of it. The true lesson of the Wendigo story is one of living kind of in harmony with nature and animals, and not taking more than is necessary from the local wildlife, not killing more than is necessary. Having an almost reverence for the process of consuming and using animal parts, like their bodies and their blood and their meat. Everything else is kind of like is actually, you dishonor the animal by treating that relationship between you frivolously. So the true meaning of the story of the Wendigo, as Brandy tells it, is to live in harmony with nature and to have a deep respect and thankfulness and gratitude for the creator. And I wanted to thank Brandy for sending in this email. The story about the Wendigo is great. And there were a couple of other stories as well about the star people, and a couple of other, like about the raven and stuff like that. I actually really liked the one about the star people, where I think it was a star woman fell from the sky and landed in the ocean, and then the turtles lifted her up. Or a turtle lifted her up, and then like all the sea creatures put like soil on the back of the sea creature, and that became the land that we live on. I think that was kind of the creation myth, roughly speaking. I thought that was really, really cool. But like all this stuff kind of hammers home to me is like, imagine if we didn't have, like, if you're a European person, imagine if we didn't know about Rome. Imagine if we didn't know about Greece, ancient Greece. This is kind of on the same level to me, is to have this taken away from you. Is you don't have the mythology and the religion, the religious history of cultures that you come from or adjacent to your culture. You know, that's the kind of loss we're facing here. And not only is that a loss for the individual indigenous people, but it's also a loss for us, right? Because then we miss out. We don't get to experience or hear about those really, really cool aspects of native culture, which is a genuine loss. It's a richness, a texture of the world has been taken from us as a result of the dying out of these languages and these cultural practices, as a result of the way they were treated in the residential school system, for example. But yeah, thank you so much, Brandy, for sending in the email, and that will be the story for this episode. And we can get back to talk about the game now that our rock bands are in position. Basically, what I want to be doing is trying to optimize my rock bands to be in position on the tiles where they have the lowest chance to die. So, for example, this guy only has a 26% chance of dying if they play on this. And bada bing, bada boom, they actually managed to level up. And they only generated 250 tourism, but that's okay, because the higher the level the rock band gets, the higher probability that it will stay alive and generate more tourism and get more album sales. And how album sales work is it's really, really simple. When you do a rock band mission, you will generate a baseline amount of tourism, and then this baseline amount of tourism is multiplied by this number as if there was a decimal after 2 digits. So it's like 1, 2 decimal, so it'll be multiplied by 1.5. And that's really how simple it is. You basically a bunch of dice rolls, and if you play your cards correctly with regards to those dice rolls, dice and cards are actually really popular game mechanics these days. If you play your cards correctly with those dice rolls, you can get up to really high tourism numbers. Like if we go ahead and take a quick little look here, we are now at 62 out of 332 tourists, and that number should start to improve quite rapidly. I would like to win this, so I'm going to go ahead and put in 12 votes for myself, because that'll leave me 180. Now, in terms of, I actually don't know. It's probably going to be pearls. I would actually, you know what, would be Omega based. Screw the diplomatic victory, okay? No one cares. What if I put all of my points into getting pearls to give multiple amenities? Now, tell me that wouldn't be the most based idea ever. Otherwise, I think, Cyrus declaring war, I'll take points away from Japan. Like, I don't care what these other ones are. But if I can get pearls to give multiple amenities, we actually managed to pull it off. Bro, we have maxed out ecstatic cities everywhere for the next 30 turns. That is incredible. That is a 20% baseline yield boost, a 20% baseline growth boost across my entire empire. That is massive right now. Okay, that is actually super exciting. That's really, really cool. I'm so glad I managed to pull that off. So Night Lizard managed to level up. Album covered art is a good follow-up, as is reggae. I feel like personally, glam rock plus album cover art plus the one that gives you gold, those three combined is like Omega Pog. But yeah, we can go ahead and grab ourselves album cover art and start playing on some of these entertainment complexes. Spaceports, some of these are kind of like not ideal in terms of their bonuses. Theater square, so I'd like to find a theater square or two. There's one over there. It'll take me a while to get there. I don't mind setting my rock bands off to kind of gently walk their path. I have some missing trade routes. I have a lot of missing spies. Real quick, let's make spies instead of industrial zones. Probably the better use of your time. Or industrial zone projects, rather. Don't really need those. So we're looking for theater squares, and there's one here that we can play with glam rock with the purple guitars. Now, a lot of these rock bands are going to die, and there is, in my opinion, a trick with rock bands. As far as I can tell, if a rock band dies on your turn, don't do any more rock band actions, because there seems to be, like, however the seed is generated, there are bad and good turns in this game. And if you get a bad turn and a rock band dies, the probability of other rock bands dying seems to be quite high. And that's just something I've noticed. Now, whether or not it's true, that's an open question. Maybe it's not true, but it definitely feels true, which I think is something to keep in mind. We have access to the Eiffel Tower and +1 production from lumber mills, as we can no longer build walls, so that's a bit of a downside. We're up to 700 tourism per turn. We will go ahead and get started on the Eiffel Tower, and we probably want to build as many wonders in general as possible. So like Mont Saint Michel, although maybe not so much in here because we kind of want to work on something else. In fact, let's go ahead and get the dam. Yeah, we'll place the dam, then we will place the neighborhood, because I need the neighborhood in order to get the biosphere. All right, purple guitars have a 26% chance of dying. And how did they do? 750 tourism and 50 albums. Not a terrible outcome. They survived. Honestly, a rock band surviving is a victory. That is something I want you to keep in mind, is if a rock band does not die, that is a victory. All right, the Broken Wombats are ready to go on stage at this. I think we want to hit campuses actually first. Yeah, campuses, because they have universities, they'll be worth 1,000 baseline tourism, which is equivalent to a wonder. So I'll send my space race kind of rock bands that way. All right, Night Lizard has a 26% chance to die and 4,000 tourism and 100 albums. That's good news. We're up to 70 out of 334. Now my turns are going to be relatively slow here, but as we pick up the pace and we can get these rock bands into position, things will start to ease up for us. Okay, you didn't level up, but you're a theater square addict, so let's move you here and play again. 3,000 tourism. You didn't die, so this is a safe turn so far. It's feeling safe. Play again. You promoted. It's a great turn. Amazing. Amazing. 3,000 tourism generated. So we want to squeeze in as much tourism as we can before she bans music. Okay, imagine being a music banner. Okay, I just want to and I don't mean like you're, a billboard, a music banner. Let's go ahead and pick up National History Museum. This will give us +4 Great Work slots in this city, which will combine with Pangala's ability. 100% tourism, great works of art, music, and stuff like that. We have plugged in the Heritage Tourism card, and pretty soon we'll want to plug in the card that also applies to great works of music. But I am picking up environmentalism first because I want that 25% tourism boost. We should start hitting about 1,000 tourism per turn. And it says we're going to win in 88 turns, but I think we can speed that up significantly. All you need is a little bit of patience. A little bit of patience, a little bit of love. You can make your way wherever you need to go. I don't remember why I got a builder here. Oh, it was to kill this mine. I remember now. This city is essentially fully built. The only thing that I could maybe consider is getting a commercial hub so that I can spam commercial hub projects. Probably not a bad use of my time, right? Crush a crab to get the Sydney Opera House in 26 turns. That seems pretty okay to me. How are we doing on city states, by the way? I haven't checked in on this in a while. I'm suzerain of 2 of these. I'm suzerain of 2 of these. 1 of these. Yeah, okay. I'm pretty happy with how the city-states are sitting right now. So this is a gold guy. I'm going to play him on Oxford University. This will get me at least 250 gold. Okay, quite a chunk of gold. I'm sitting on 17,000 gold, by the way. If any of the tourist great people appear, I will be able to grab them. Although one great person I really, really want, because I have so many artifacts, is I'm going to want to get Mary Leakey, because she makes your artifacts absolutely god tier. God, I got so much glam rock. I was genuinely spoiled for a while. But Surf Band isn't the worst thing ever. All right, let's do another one. 37% chance of death. Not bad. It's a safe turn, like I said. Let's try 50-50 shot here. 750 tourism. Very nice. Let's try the theater square. 37% chance that it'll be their final gig. Safe turn, and they leveled up. This is what I'm talking about. You gotta hunt for these safe turns. Safe turns are just like omega good. Another 150 albums sold, 1,000 tourism, and they leveled up. That's huge. I don't think you can level up beyond 3. I think 3 promotions is all they can ever get. But man, oh man, are things looking good for me tourism-wise. I actually don't know where I have room for great works of writing. Okanese has room for great works of writing. That's good. So, is it a safe turn? Who will be my sacrificial lamb? You will be. Come over here. No, you have a level. Damn it. Ooh, religious rock. That seems like a fun one. See, you will be my sacrificial ram. Is it a safe turn? It is a safe turn. It is a safe turn. You have leveled. Excellent. Let us continue to play our way through. Aha, another level. And people tell me about the gambler's fallacy. Oh, Potato, there's no such thing as a safe turn. It's just your like internal bias. It doesn't actually work like that. And then you can look at these results that I am getting playing around safe and dangerous turns with rock bands. Okay, probably these guys are going to die because like there's only so much luck you have, right? But even so, that was a crappy rock band. I managed to preserve my luck for a good rock band that'll come later. Okay, maybe it's superstition. Okay, maybe it is superstition. But you know what? Sometimes superstition works, all right? And you can't explain that. I would love, could we scientifically test? Is there a scientific test, okay? Hear me out here. To test whether or not there are safe or dangerous turns. That's a question I have. Third promotion on Night Lizard. Feeling really, really strong here. Yeah, religious rock isn't great, but I guess it helps. It spreads my religion, makes the game a little bit more interesting. All right. Boom, 1,000 tourism, 750. Thank you. I'll take that. An average performance. Nothing to write home about, but worthwhile nonetheless. Look at that. Beautiful 25 turns until we win, thanks to rock bands. It's just the power of the rock band, man. You do it correctly, and it's a game changer. Safe turn, perhaps? Ooh, very safe turn. Modern era ends in 5 turns. Now, we did get environmentalism as well. And combustion, so we're now up to nearly 900 tourism per turn. That's fantastic. Let's go ahead, and I think our next big one is to get satellite broadcasts as well as social media for the 50% tourism output boost. Those two are really, really key here. So it says 40 turns until we win, so we are making good progress thanks to the rock bands. Now, how do I feel? You need to promote. Let's risk it for a biscuit. Let's see here. None of these are very good. I'll take water parks. It is levels. 16% chance of failure and dead. Okay, this is a bad turn. This is a bad turn. I put all of my rock bands to sleep and I do not act with them. If you like, this is it. Maybe it's superstition, right? Maybe it is. I'm gonna just operate on the assumption that it's true. I know that probably isn't the best way to live my life, but it seems to work when I'm playing Civ. It's a goddamn barbarian submarine killing all my trade routes over here. That makes a lot of sense, actually. Why? Why are you here? Let's try one more theater square performance. Look! The same turn of the unit died. It's true. I don't care what anyone says, okay? There are bad turns. There are bad turns when it comes to RNG, and you have to dodge those bad turns. That's all I'm saying. Look, the probability of a 17% chance and a 26% chance rock band dying back to back, like you multiply those probabilities together, okay? Let me actually do the math here. It's 0.17 multiplied by 0.27, okay? That is less than a 5% chance of happening. You would have to roll a d20 and hit a 20 to get that to happen, okay? Now, d20s happen all the time, especially if your Pokemon challenge is playing Tides of Death, okay? That dude hits more d20s than anyone I've ever seen in my entire life. All right, now let's try it again, okay? Safe. Is this a safe turn? Put a big band. It's a safe turn. 5,000 tourism. Hey, and we converted the city. Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, let's start playing on some of these. These are weak. These are weak rock bands. So I don't care if some of these guys die. It's the guys that are leveled or have good promotions that I care about preserving. So like a couple of weak ones dying, like, doesn't really matter. So the Netherlands did manage to plug in music censorship, but not before I managed to extract a decent amount of tourism from them. So now I just have to focus my tourism efforts on other people. And there are people with theater squares around, like we can get some value here. Even if our performances aren't good, right? As long as we're getting progression and we're like hitting where we need to, it's fine. 16% chance of death. Nice. Let's make sure we have the trading boost with everyone. Yeah, so far I have it with everyone except for Japan. So the only person I'm not trading with is Japan, which I think is acceptable. They're kind of the furthest away. I can't get any cities near them. So, I mean, I could maybe settle like a tiny city on a tiny island like over here or something, but I'm not going to do that. We got our very first neighborhood district, which does put us a step towards the biosphere. And in my capital, I decided to go for a campus purely for one reason, and that's so I could spam campus research grants in here and get a better chance of getting Mary Leakey. Okay, relatively safe turn so far, 50-50 passed. We have a pretty strong band here. Let's continue to play on wonders. And they leveled up again, 7,500 tourism. Oh my god, that is beautiful. Now that, my friends, is a thing of beauty. All right, these guys aren't very strong, so I expect them to die soon. However, this guy I expect to survive and play well. Because the other ones with the actual promotion for playing on thingies. Ooh, right, I should start making more rock bands. And I feel like my luck has been pretty high in Egypt, so I'm going to play around the Egypt area. Ugh, I hate all of these. These are terrible. I'll take reggae rock because occasionally the AI does build water parks. But mostly we want to play on theater squares. Glam rock is just hands down the best promotion for a rock band. Like there's not even a comparison. Like it's a 26% chance of dying with glam rock, which is just like fantastic. Wait, can I reach Japan? I can now trade with Japan. I have a trade with everyone on the map. Fantastic. So we're now cranking in terms of tourism, at least. We're almost got 1,000 tourism in the bank. That's going to feel pretty good. God, can I stop getting Barbarian and Poundmaker relics? Like, I want literally anything else. I don't want this religious emergency to go through. That'd be annoying if it did. Okay, whatever. It's not my goal. My goal isn't to have a religious emergency. Like, I'm not trying to convert you. It was just like a byproduct of my rock bands. Like, my music is too awesome, okay? Relax. Renew our alliance with Cleopatra, though. That's, like, critically important. And we will. 9% chance that these guys die here. That is, like, unheard of levels of, like, gig quality. Oh shit, I forgot to do one with a different band first to check if it was a safe turn. I know for a fact this is a dangerous turn. The best way to check for a dangerous turn is to do 2 goes. It's really the way to tell. So let's do another one, right? 16% chance. Okay, you actually passed it. So maybe it's not, maybe I just got unlucky. 16% chance. And he leveled up. Okay, so it's not a dangerous turn. We're fine. We just got unlucky. Sometimes it's dangerous turns, and then sometimes you just get unlucky and you lose your 10k per turn tourism generator. But yeah, now that we're in the full swing of the tourism victory, I'm going to call that the end of the episode. I love you all very much, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!